All right, so we have the Akai MPC 2500 right here, and for those that don't know, it's actually very similar to the MPC 1000. All right, and I'm making this video because a lot of the videos that are out there are pretty old, so I thought I'd do an updated version, something that's HD. And it's for those that are thinking about buying one and they want to see what's inside, or for those that already bought one and they haven't opened it up yet. So I'm going to show you how to open it up and to show you what's inside and what to look out for, a couple of little tricks and all that stuff, a few tips. And yeah, let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that you need to take off is the side panels here. All right, so you take a look here, and you can see there's two screws here. So it's really simple. Take those off, pop them off. Let's do that right now. All right, so these just pop right off here. Just slide them off. See, like this, like this. Slide them off. Okay. Now, before I continue, just make sure that when you're working on this, when you're trying to open it up, just be very careful. Just go very slowly and take your time. There's no rush. You do not want to break anything because you're gonna have to replace it. It's gonna be a pain in the ass. So now I'm going to flip this upside down, and what you want to do is take something like a blanket, a pillow, whatever, and use that because you don't damage anything. It's nice and soft. So you got some screws over here on the panel right here. Okay, and now you want to take off the front panel here. It's been a while, so I'm trying to remember what screws exactly have to take off, but there it goes. That's right. Okay, so take the panel off. Now this is a little tricky because this one, you can see right in here, you have this screw and this screw to take out, but there's also, I think it's this one. Yeah, I think there's that screw as well. So one of the tricks is to make sure you have a screwdriver that's magnetized, because that'll help you not lose any screws. I've lost a couple inside of this, and it's not fun trying to find it. Oh, I think I left that one. I think I left that one empty because it was such a pain. Okay, and then there's two screws in the back here. Okay, and then you got to take off the two knobs here. They just pop right off. All right. So now, there's something missing here. Yeah, sorry, one more right here. Okay. All right, so here you go. So the panel's off. There you go. Put that aside. All right, so this is the inside of the MPC 2500, and remember, it's like kind of like the big brother of the MPC 1000. So the 1000 is pretty much the same thing. It's just that it's a little smaller or whatever. The pads are smaller, but it's the same buttons, the same layout and everything like that. The same, pretty much the same jog wheel and all that. So for those that with the 1000, this is pretty similar. Okay, now what you have here is all these buttons. All right, and on top of that, I'm going to take one off so you can see. All right. So if you can see here, this button, how they are. See these little prongs here? These are the weakest points of the knob. So when you're pulling it off, you got to squeeze. You got to squeeze these two ends here. Squeeze them like this, and pull it out. Sometimes it's a little tight because they're right next to each other, so it's a little tight to get. You can use tweezers or whatever, but be very, very careful because I've broken a few of these, the end parts here. So just make sure you don't, you don't pull too hard, you don't press too hard on it or whatever. All right. Okay, so I'll take a few more off so you can see. These are the bigger ones. They're a little different. A little bigger. See that? All right. So now what you have here is these are the tact switches, T-A-C-T. All right, this one, okay. These ones here, the big ones like this, these ones, okay, they're big like this. They're the bigger ones. All the rest of them, even the number pad ones and all that stuff, they're all the same size like this. So if you check the links below, I'm going to put the links below to the website Mouser, where you can get these tact switches. They're super cheap, like 30 cents or something like that. Depends how many you buy in bulk or whatever. And you get those, you could stockpile them in case you need them or whatever. The main thing is that when you're buying a unit like this, okay, you know, obviously it's an old unit, so you're buying it used from somebody. You don't know if they bought it, you know, right from the store, if they got it from somebody secondhand. So it's best to check inside the MPC just to be safe. I think I'm the third owner of this one. But the guy that I got it from, he didn't replace the tact switches. So when I first got it, it was okay, but they started to die off. So I had them all replaced, pretty much all of them replaced. And had them all soldered. They had to be resoldered. So I don't do soldering, but if you know somebody that does, or you can bring it to a shop, whatever, I recommend you get them done, because once you get them done, especially with the ones I have in the link below, you won't have to replace them ever again. They'll last you a lifetime. So because some of these have been beaten to death, the ones that were, you know, that came from Akai, they weren't the greatest quality. So if you get the replacement ones, they're a hell of a lot better. So it's something to invest in for sure. All right, so now, like I said, these are a little expensive, a little more expensive than these ones, but they're still very cheap, very, very cheap. So yeah, those are the tact switches. I recommend you replace them. I didn't mess with the sliders here because I don't really use this board much, the Q-Links. I don't really use them too much, so I don't really care about that. The same thing with the lights. Now under here you have, so if you notice under here, you have the tact switch and the light right here. There's a light. I had the lights changed to blue. The default is red. So if you're going to get the lights done, I have the link for that too in the description. Same thing, very, very cheap. They just have to be soldered on and all that stuff. These ones aren't working too well for me for some reason. It could be this cable over here. I think it's a little, actually, sorry, it's this one. I think it's a little loose because it's, I'm not sure if you can see, it's kind of up off the board a bit. So I have to play with that or whatever. But yeah, so anyway, you can have the lights replaced as well to whatever color you want. Now, if you're going to replace the tact switches, you don't have to redo all of them. Okay, you can do the main ones that you normally use. So the first thing you want to do is do all these, the F switches, because you're going to use these all the time, right? So it's super easy to change these. There's only 6 of them, so it's super fast. Now on the website mpcstuff.com, you can buy all these boards, and it's all redone for you with the tact switches and all that stuff. It's a little pricey, but if you don't want to do the soldering yourself, or you don't want to pay somebody, you can just buy the boards outright and do it like that or whatever. So, but it's good to look inside and see what's going on, because you know you want to learn, you want to see how things work and all that. So, so definitely replace those. Replace all these down here, because especially the stop, play, record. I mean, you're going to use these all the time. All these ones as well and stuff. Maybe the pads and all that, the banks, I should say, the number keys, whatever. But you know, still, it's just, and especially this one. These were the first to go on me, was these ones. So definitely get these replaced as well. But there's a few, you know, like Note Repeat or whatever that I don't always use or something like that. Or like this one. This one's the Tap Tempo. I really use that, so I didn't have this one replaced. But still, you know, you can have them all redone. Now up here you have the 2 knobs, record and main volume. So with these two, underneath it's these two knobs, but it's just that I can't find them yet on Mouser. I don't know if I can get those. If anyone can find those, if you know the model number, please let me know. Post in the comments. Otherwise, the site MPC Stuff, they sell the two. So apparently they're 2 different types of knobs. So it's not like you just buy one and then use it for both. You can't. Okay, so yeah, check out MPC Stuff for those for sure. And yeah, now the other thing too is that what I did is I didn't just bring the whole unit to this guy and have him resolder everything. What I did was I took it all apart and I brought him just every single board, right? The 3 boards. So I brought him the 3 boards. That way it cost me a lot less, right? Because that way he doesn't have to open everything up and try to figure out how to disconnect everything. So when you're opening it up and taking these boards out, what I recommend is, like I was saying earlier, be very, very careful, because you don't want to break any of these things, especially these ribbon cables. You know, you don't want to have to go and try to find these things and figure out, you know, where they are and all that. Now, what I recommend is you can take, if you see a little screwdriver like this with a flathead, okay, take that and just be very, very careful. If you can see right over here, just get in the crack a bit and just kind of push it a bit, just slowly like that. Just kind of nudge it out, take your time and pop it out. Okay, now there's prongs inside there, so you don't want to push. Just go very slowly, just to get in the crack a bit. And if you find yourself forcing anything, don't, like, just stop, because you're doing it wrong. So just be careful of that. And besides, before you do any of that stuff, actually, I should have said, is take a picture of this. So that way, you know, or just follow this video. Take a picture so you remember where everything is, where everything goes, and all that stuff. Especially up here, you have a there's a wire up here that's a little tricky with this piece over here. So that too, take a picture, just remember how it goes and all that. You just want to make sure you do it properly when you put it all back together and all that. There's a couple of cables like this one. It's a little tight. Okay, the way Akai did them, they're a little tight. They wrap around very, very tightly. The same thing with this screen. I had the screen replaced. I did it myself. It's not hard. It's just that the difficult part is getting the ribbon cable wrapped around in the back here, so underneath this. So just be wary of that, because in case you want to replace things like that or whatever. So the cables are all pretty much very tight, so just be careful. And the other thing is this, the jog wheel. Now this is very important, because I made a mistake twice, actually, because I'm stupid. So what I suggest is you take some masking tape like this and you just tape it across here like this. It's not going to harm anything. Just tape it across, and that way this thing doesn't move. Okay, because if you're taking this to somewhere or doing it yourself, the soldering or whatever, you do not want to take this off, because the problem is when you just pull it off, but when you put it back on, it's easy. Then when you put the case back on, what happens is it doesn't fit properly. You have to put this on exactly where it's supposed to go, and you don't know where it is. You have to just keep trying. And so it's such a pain to do that. So to avoid that, unlike what I did, just make sure you tape it now. That way you know not to touch it, and that way you can mess with all the other stuff and not have to worry about this. All right, because trust me, you do not want to do that. It means you got to put it on, put the case back on. Oh, it doesn't fit. Take the case off, turn it just a bit like this, and put it back on. So it's such a pain. So just avoid that by taping it, and that'll save you a big headache in the long run. Now the other thing too is the pads here. Now my unit came with these black fat pads. I switched to my orange. I went back to the black. I want to switch back to orange now. These are from MPC stuff. So these, you just put them on. They're just sitting here. So I'm going to take this off here. Now, if you want to clean them, you could just use a Q-tip with some alcohol and water, like half and half water, half alcohol. And you just clean it inside. It makes a big difference. It makes it shiny for a few seconds, but it does clean it up, so it's very, very good. On the back, I have these little plugs, little sticker plugs that came with it. And I recommend, if you do get the fat pads, you put these on, because that way it's going to be more sensitive on the pad and all that. And the reason why is because, check here, because this is the sensor pad. All right. Now, sometimes I hear people complaining that they trigger one pad and they hit one pad. Let's say here, it'll trigger another pad, or it doesn't, or they have to hit like really, really hard in order to hear the sound. So to avoid that, well, not to avoid that, but to fix that, you could try cleaning the pad. Same thing. I haven't cleaned it yet, but I read somewhere that you could do the same thing with alcohol and water. Just clean it very gently and all that. What you could also use is just, you could just use regular lint cloth. Just do that, just to kind of fix it up. But also you can clean the bottom of the pads themselves, just in case. Now the same thing with this. You can replace this as well. You can buy this. But you see here, this part right here, the ribbon, it's very, very tight. So there's screws here, right here, and here, and all that up here, to take this whole part off. And you'll see underneath it's all there with the ribbon and all that stuff. So you can replace that part, so it's not a big deal. But you know, all these things that you want to replace, it could get pricey, right? So, but that's why I recommend opening this, trying to learn how everything works. That way you can try to fix things yourself if you can, you know. So, all right. So now I have the orange pads I'm going to put on. All right. And this one, you can see from the oops, goes like this. Yeah. You can see it's got the little dot here. And the dot here, okay, so they connect with these ones. You can see, I mean, you can only put these pads on one single way, just like that. All right, so they're going to sit like that. I'm going to clean it up in a bit though, but yeah, they just sit on like this, and then you're good to go. And then, you know, when you tap it, it's tapping the bottom. You're hitting this, and then this is hitting the sensor, and there you go. So it's pretty straightforward. In the back, you have the stereo out and the assignable outs, the BD outs, and all that stuff. There's two boards underneath all this, right? There's two boards. So one of them is for over here, the other one is up here, whatever. So the thing is, some people, they complain that they'll have a problem with the stereo out. Let's say the right channel's not working, left channel's not working, or whatever. So there's a couple ways around that. One thing you could do is you could assign to, let's say your stereo out's not working, you can assign your outs to be, let's say 1 and 2 or whatever. So you can do that in inside the MPC and inside the software, just assign it like that, and that way you just kind of, you're just bypassing this and using the assignable outs. But that kind of sucks, right? So another thing you could do is, let's say your right channel is not working, well then just use your left channel. Okay, you can just go mono out, you know. I mean, don't forget some of these units from way back, let's say like SP1200. I mean, I was just mono, right? All those units back then, mono. So, and look at the stuff that those guys made, right? All those beats. So you could just use the left channel, whatever. And when you're mixing, then that's when you can mess with stereo and all that stuff. But for now, just, you know, you can just use one channel. It's not a big deal. But the thing is that there's two boards in here, and the main is the main. I think it's called the main PCB board. That one on the website, I think, is about $350. So that's really expensive. So if that board is damaged somehow, you do not want to have to replace that, because it's very expensive. So so just try to work around, just try these different things if you can, you know, like if you have that problem, whatever. But that's just something to look for if you're having problems with the audio outs. All right, so then the last thing is that, let's say you're doing all these things and you're ready to put everything back together. What you could do is, before you put your case back on, let's say you have to reconnect all these boards, or before you put the case back on, just boot it up first before you do that, because you don't want to have to put it on, screw everything back on, then turn it on. It's not turning on, right? So that way, just try it now. I mean, I wouldn't recommend hitting, you know, the sensor pads with your finger when it's on, or any of these other boards or whatever. You don't want to do that, but I'm just saying, just, you know, turn it on just to make sure it goes on, and then turn it off and all that stuff. And of course, don't forget, when you're doing all this, make sure this is all unplugged, of course. But the main thing is, yeah, you don't want to have to waste time putting the case back on and off and all that, you know. So just double check, make sure everything's connected and all that. But the main thing is, take a snapshot of it to make sure you remember where everything goes. Okay, so you can see where everything goes. And that's about it. So once again, just check the description. I've got the links for the tack switches and the lights. And once you get all that, you can do it yourself and you'll be good to go. If you have any questions, just ask below, and then go make some beats.